Hi folks, welcome back to the channel. Thank you very much for joining me once again. You are always most welcome. Well, today we recently had, you recall, a look at the Ba-349 Natter rocket plane, which is powered by one of these Valter jet rocket motors, and 4 booster rockets. We looked at the kits from Brengun and also from Revell in both 72nd and 48th scales respectively. Now I also have from our old friend Paul Hunter, he's also sent us a very interesting book all about this jet plane, rocket plane. I think death trap is not an unrealistic description from what we've already seen. But this is going to be very interesting because it's a nice little book, this. From another one from Osprey, tells you all about the development of it. I thought we'd have a little look at this and perhaps get a bit more insight into this rather wacky and rather dangerous looking plane, which, as we know, claimed the life of at least one of the test pilots and I think others. But let's have a nosy then, because I think that it's nice that Paul sent this along. I've got to return it to him. I must remember to put it in with the kit. I mustn't snaffle it for myself because I do like a good book. But let's have a look at this. Let's zoom you in and you can have a good old nosy. And I think you'll find this is quite breathtaking in its audacity. Maybe you could say stupidity, but it's a very odd concept, a very, very revolutionary design. Let's have a look. So this is the one, obviously, that launches on almost like the space shuttle on a sort of launching tower. Very much like the Werner von Braun stuff. We've got some great photographs of it just after capture in Austria. And then it goes sort of from the beginning, tells you about the original concepts, what the idea was, some of the very early prototypes and other sort of developments toward the end of World War II. And of course here's a rather nice artwork. I'll zoom you out a bit for that. Quite a nice artwork of it attacking the bomber string. This is the intention of the plane really, with these multiple rockets which are pretty lethal, I'm sure. Problem is actually getting a bead on the bomber in the first place. And the name Natter is it's another word for a grass snake in German. And here's some of the glider contest that they used to have, which is between on the interwar years when under the Versailles Agreement Treaty, Germany wasn't allowed to have fighter planes, and they had a lot of work on gliders, and a lot of R&D was done behind the scenes. And that's how the things like the Messerschmitt 163 were born, of course. That was Alexander Lippisch, that was slightly different. But this is this chap Bachem. And it talks about Eric Bachem and all the different concepts. And it's got all the original drawings of various concepts that he'd got, how it would be powered, what the aerodynamics would be like, and then the very simple instrumentation and cockpit. Looks very cramped. And then perhaps most bizarre of all is this concept where he was considering different positioning of the pilots. So we have prone position, sort of a kneeling position, or in a normal seating position. See that? Yes, that doesn't look a lot of fun, that middle one especially, or the bottom one really. No thanks, I don't think I'll be signing up for this one. But it's interesting, isn't it? Because, you know, they were right at the cutting edge, right at the end of World War II. Here's the original prototype in wood. And here's your Valter HWK 109, 509, that's the rocket motor that was also used in the ME-163, of course. And it's damn dangerous in that. I mean, you've got to remember, on top of this, you've also got a couple of other factors. It had already been well demonstrated in a lot of accidents that this concept was very dangerous. Just to even fuel it up was dangerous, because you had this C-stuff and T-stuffed fuels that you don't want to combine. One of them is based on hydrogen peroxide, and when it comes into contact with anything organic, it explodes basically. Mix the two fuels together and it's highly explosive, which is what gives the rocket its power, you know. So you got to remember, this appears to be a wooden aircraft. Oh, it's got danger written all over it, hasn't it? But anyway, they did fly them, and they were used, albeit very briefly. And then you've got these 4 booster rockets at the back as well. Just yet more risk, you know. It's got the workers here using a plane to actually design the end of the wingtips. He's working on the wing frame. I mean, basically a handmade sort of almost like a glider really. Obviously a rocket-powered glider, but the construction was kind of similar to a glider in many respects. And then it shows them here, zooming back in, you can see them testing it with the rocket motor this time fully up and running, blasting jet rocket exhaust out the back. This is the Smidling booster rockets they're testing in this case. Yeah, booster rockets. Again, it's a bit like a miniature space shuttle in some respects, isn't it? It's got a lot of things in common with that. The way it launches, there it is on a dolly, three-wheeler triangular dolly. Some of the original flights were done with tow planes, and here we go. Actually on the launch tower, the Hooiberg Test Centre in late 1944. Blimey. It's just a most astonishing concept, isn't it, really? Here it is, sitting on the guide rail. So this is a bit like the one, similar to the one we saw. Now this is going back to Paul's comments. He said that this was the test, not the operational tower, because the operational tower just has these guide rails under the wing, and it doesn't have the wing within it, so to speak, which it is there. So that's the sort of prototype tower, and there it is being launched. Look, it's crazy. Shortly after this, the aircraft salvage parachute failed to open and it broke up after hitting the ground. Well, I bet it did. And here it shows the actual salvage parachute in the lower fuselage, so it's underneath at the back. So many things can go wrong there, isn't there? You know. So they've got a rocket motor. You've got 4 of these booster rockets, all very close to the parachute. Now, the life of the pilot doesn't depend on that, because I find it hard to keep a straight face with this concept. The pilot is supposed to bail out beforehand, and that parachute you see there is only for the benefit of the recovery of the aircraft, because that was the idea, it was going to be recoverable. But there's so many things can go wrong. It requires all the planets to be aligned for this concept to work, I think, doesn't it, really? And I don't think they were aligned that often, if you know what I mean. It's an interesting book. It tells you all about all the R&D and the testing that went on. A fragment of the tailplane marked with contact details at the launch site. There was little else to salvage, it says. Oh dear. It's got here members of the SS Sonderkommando Val d'Isère prepare to fit the nose section on a mock-up of the fuselage. And there's this issue that Paul talked about, of course, with the trim problem. So when you take off, you've got everything heavy and fine, it's all in trim. Then very quickly you jettison your rockets, so it becomes all nose heavy, until you fire the rockets, the attack rockets at the front. You boost the rockets full away, so all the weight's now at the front, centre of gravity. Then you've got to fire those rockets as soon as possible to get the trim back. So it's constantly like, it must be like flying a bucking Bronco, really. And here is the alleged planned flight path and mission parameters, and it's very, very wishful thinking, I think is the way I'd put it. And here's the rocket system. I mean, I don't know why they just didn't have the rocket system in a more conventional, aircraft. Like even the ME-163 was more conventional compared to this. Here's a schematic, sort of in plan form, which is quite a good one. Here we go. That's quite a good shot of it, isn't it? So it's just really an ME-163 from the cockpit back, but obviously without the delta wing. That's the big difference, and the fact it launches via a tower. And here we have an illustration of using the fan fire, as they call it, the fan fire of the battery of these 32 cannon shells, Mark 108 cannon shells, fired in a salvo at a target from below at an angle of 20 degrees. So this is considered the optimal attack mode. And there is the rocket launcher in the nose. They call it the honeycomb launch rack. This is for the foam rockets. Here's a man with an unbelievably dangerous job here. Let's have a look at this. At the moment, the most dangerous job in the world. Ground crewman stands on the ladder resting against the starboard wing of a Natter whilst filling up the propellant tank with sea stuff in April 1945. He wears protective rubber apron and gloves to protect him from any spillage of the volatile compound. The tea stuff filling point can be seen on the top of the fuselage behind the canopy here. There. But I'm a bit alarmed that they're actually so close together, because in the Messerschmitt 163 Comet they put them, one was at the top and one was further back. They didn't have them aligned together like that. That's very risky. It's got yellow painted wing stripe for them to make the flight monitoring from the ground a bit easier. And here's what I was talking about just a few minutes ago about the C stuff and T stuff. And it says a hazardous reaction is caused as a result of mixing the two together. Here, a glove technician allows some drops of sodium permanganate to fall into the dish containing a small amount of tea stuff. The mixture immediately explodes into the oxygen, creating a hot burning stream. Oof. Yes, he's definitely got his gloves on, that's for sure. Here it is being loaded onto the tower. It's got an operational camouflage pattern there. And this is this tower arrangement, which was in the Revell kit, of course. It's quite impressive. Here's Lothar Sieber, who sadly was killed, of course. He became the first man to undergo a rocket-powered one, but he didn't last very long because there was this problem when the canopy snapped back and they think it may have broken his neck or certainly knocked him unconscious. And then it crashed in a big ball of flame, unfortunately. Here's another one, and the one that's got number 223 on it. 23. M23 is attached to the Heuberg Tower in readiness for launch on the 1st of March 45. It's got a crude scribble pattern of dark green over a grey base coat. Yeah, it's just been horridly painted. Pilot's leather headrest can be seen. Yeah, there we go. This is what Paul spoke about. He's clearly read the book, yeah? He was speaking about this accident to Lothar Sieber, and he said that if you look, the headrest there is actually attached to the canopy. This was a crazy idea, wasn't it? Because the canopy snaps off and it takes his head with it, and this is what we think happened. We think he broke his neck, or certainly got knocked unconscious with a blow to the head. Here it is on its little stand, ready to go. We're just ready for a test. Oh God, this is Lothar Sieber himself here. It says Lothar Sieber grips the handhold on the nose. Whoops. Handhold on the nose of the M23 as he prepares to step off the gangway, which rests on the leading edge of the port wing. It's just a ladder, really, isn't it? Basically. Seatbelt buckle is draped over the edge of the cockpit here. Good Lord. Suicide. Yeah, and it took his life, didn't it? On the next page it says, here's another picture, and it says 1 foot on the leading edge and 1 foot already inside the cockpit. Lothar, I mean, this is not exactly user friendly, is it? Sieber precariously straddles the fuselage as he enters the aircraft. One of the ground crew holds his left hand to steady him. Good grief. Jeez. And of course he was killed minutes later. Here we've got some of the parts that were found at the end of the war. The Crocus, this is when they were developing it during the march, and they called it Crocus. Here it is in concept on its launch tower. I mean, it's just not an easy to use concept, is it? You've got to mess about winching it, you've got specialists for everything. I'm not sure what they were thinking of. It's certainly interesting. I mean, it's fascinating, really. Wacky, I think, is one expression you might want to attribute to it. And then, of course, right at the end of the war, the Americans overran the site. Then they moved it to one site, and the Americans arrived, and they actually got it out on a train and went south, further to the Austrian, just on the other side of the Austrian border. And the Americans captured it again. So this time they got them all, I think. So there we go. It's a very interesting book, I've got to say, and I can understand the interest that we have. Paul Hunter's got had the two kits. He'd given one to me, the small one. I'm sending him back the book, and of course his nice big Revell one with the tower. And I can see the interest. It's certainly something different. It's interesting. It is interesting. but I don't get why they thought it was worth investing all this energy into it at the time when they were so desperate just to get something in the sky. You could argue it's a classic example of German over-engineering of a concept. They did a lot, of course, even things like the Tiger tank with its twin clutch gearbox and all that stuff. Yes, very interesting indeed. Well, thanks very much to Paul Hunter. I'll make sure this book gets back to you in fine order. Much appreciated your input and contribution once again, so I think we all owe Paul another beer. Yeah, fantastic. Anybody else has got anything, weird and wacky and interesting, historical items like that, or, an interesting book, or something that they're particularly interested in that they think would make a good episode on the channel, by all means send it along, and you can contact me, just drop me a message and we'll sort it out. So, I have to say, the book, I'll give that a 9 out of 10, at least a 9 out of 10 for the book. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed it, found it interesting. Certainly something different, isn't it? I didn't include the book with the 2 kits because I thought there was too much. 2 kits and a book is a bit too much in one video. But I hope it was of interest to you. Thank you very much for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done already. And if you are a subscriber, make sure you've dinged the alert notification bell to make sure you get earliest possible notice. I know there was an issue about 2 weeks ago when people weren't getting alerts when I had an upload of a new video. I think it was a glitch at YouTube's end, but it seems to have cleared now, I think. Don't forget to do that anyway. In the meantime, until I see you again, thank you very much for joining me. Thanks for all your time and your attention. As I mentioned with the other video, there is Mark Felton who does these history videos very well. Big fan of his. I'll put the link for that relative video about the Natter, which is really good. When you see the animation, you'll think it's even more crazy than what I've suggested. It's very, very dangerous, this as a concept. But anyway, very interesting that technology was being developed in that way. So have a look at that as well if you like. Until next time then, look after yourselves, take care, thanks very much, and bye for now.